Enter if you dare this ghastly conversation of teens fraught with despair and recent lacerations. Final girl, chase after her, don't let her get away. But first, the Slumber Podcast Massacre with TNA.
Welcome to Slumber Podcast Massacre with TNA. That's Tim.
That's Andy.
And this is a podcast about horror. Every single week, Tim and I are going to jump together and talk about a different film in the horror genre, from your not-known movies to your well-known movies. And the rare ones at the back of your video store shelf. Oh, boy. Anyway, this week, Tim and I are going to talk about the 1985 slasher, The Mutilator. Tim, when you were a kid, did you ever get excited for fall break?
That's a good question, because I don't. Is it just my memory? I don't remember us having a fall break as little kids.
Right.
Like,
I think we got like a 4-day weekend. Like that was.
it was
fall
like
break.
in high. Oh no! You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of when they introduced midwinter break. Like that was the one where we're like not that we were like not gonna enjoy having it, but it's like, what? Like midwinter break? But no, fall break. I guess we just called it Thanksgiving, didn't we? I mean, that's
Pretty
is
much.
that kind of what it was?
It
And
must be.
no, looking forward to fall. Well, I loved fall because we all know that even as a kid, I was into horror. So that's what fall meant for me. It meant Halloween. It meant the crispness in the air. I still feel that now. Like, it probably happened for the first time this year. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. Was the first morning that I walked outside, and you get a little bit of that fall crispness.
Yeah.
And to me, it's energizing. It's invigorating, And so yeah, I love this season. It's my favorite season. So as far as like actually looking forward to it on like a school calendar, not so much. But this time of year is my favorite by far.
Never had any big fall break plans.
No, I never.
There's a
Nor
reason
did
no movie's ever been called fall break before.
Well, it's true. And yeah, let's just say that real quick. The alternate title, which we'll get into later, the alternate title for The Mutilator is Fall Break. It was originally titled Fall Break. And, it is kind of funny. Like, I never thought about it, but it's sort of a funny phrase in general because, you fall and break something.
Right.
So it's kind of clever. I mean, it's not hilarious, but it's clever.
The same for spring break. You spring up.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. But it is kind of,
Sure,
but you're
we're the
right.
first ones to ever. Can't believe no one's uncovered those jokes before.
But it is like there are people out there that bitch about, like, are they just going to make a horror movie about every single holiday? And, they're always making these movies. And I mean, to their credit, like, Fall Break does feel like you're stretching it a little bit.
Right.
Like,
I
why don't
remember
they just
Mad Magazine when we were kids about this time, and there was a whole joke one on Arbor Day. It was an Arbor Day horror movie.
Yeah, why don't they just have one called Bank Holiday? That would, like, the most innocuous day to have a holiday for. But no, but it I guess
Day.
I guess it works. If anything else, it makes you feel bad when you're watching this, because you're like, God, did I just miss out on a huge part of life by not making big plans on fall break?
Right.
Like, I didn't know it was a big thing.
Well, let's get into this movie. Tim, this is The Mutilator, written, directed, and produced by Buddy Cooper. It had a $1 million budget. It starred Matt Mittler, Ruth Martinez, and Jack Chatham. And Tim, I'll tell you what, in a week that saw the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Donald Trump trying to ram in a Supreme Court justice after saying that he doesn't think mail-in ballots should be counted and that it should go to the Supreme Court. I'll tell you what, never have I looked more forward to seeing someone cut open by a boat propeller in my life. Like, what a breath of fresh air that was for this week. It was just nice to kick back and watch some blood spray and wash all the cares in the world away from you.
Well, right, and that's what you hope to get when you pick up a movie box entitled The Mutilator. Like, it's kind of it's the best name change, the most successful name change that a movie has ever had. Like Fall Break, who wants to see that? Like, who even has an interest?
Yeah, when they were
But
first trying to push this movie around, and they were looking for distributors, and one of them, the people who bought it were like, "All right, show us your press material." The guy's like, "Dude, this is garbage. This is crap. We can't sell Fall Break." And some secretary was like, "How about the Mutilator? Because this made me uncomfortable." They were like, "Oh, it's great."
Well, yeah, I love it because I mean we've seen other like OR or ER like movie titles before. You know, Terminator, Executioner. I think there was even one called The Annihilator that had that one football player that died of AIDS. Well, what was that dude? He played for the Raiders, I think.
Oh, Brian Bosworth?
No,
Oh,
it was like
I don't know.
he had a beard. The only thing that I can think of is Greg Louganis, but I'm 100% sure that it's not Greg Louganis.
He's still alive.
Is he really? And not a football player.
And not a football player. Not a football player.
No, there was a guy. His name was Lou. Was it Lou? Oh God, I can't. Anyways, so there's been a lot of movies with that title, right?
Right.
But you know what it sounds like to me? It's kind of like when you're having a conversation with somebody and you're kind of like ramping it up and one-upping each other, and then somebody chimes in with something that's so over the top that you're just like, oh God, like why'd you have to take it there? Because it's like Terminator sounds tough, Annihilator, and then the Mutilator.
Right.
Like that is just no more fucking around when you say that. And
It's
so
not
I
a
think
room
it's
you want
great.
to walk into.
No, and it's but yet it is the title and the movie box. We love to talk about our movie boxes. Very brightly colored, primary colors. Kind of, it's cartoon. It's drawn,
Yeah.
and you see these people hanging up on the wall, and you see the title, The Mutilator. Like it practically jumped off the video store shelf to us when I first saw it. When I was about it was probably 86 when I saw it. So I was probably like 6th, 7th grade.
All right.
And yeah, the funny thing is it didn't have a really strong impact at that time other than the kills themselves. But revisiting it before we get into Nancy's summary, I want to say the fun thing about researching this movie was I have never had a faster turnaround of disliking a movie into liking a movie. And by fast turnaround, I mean 24 hours. Like I watched it, I rewatched it, just a couple days ago.
Uh-huh.
Didn't care for it. Started researching it, which is something else we can talk about too. Like, should a movie be judged on its backstory or just the film itself? But either way, by researching it, I was like, oh, the Mutilator. Like, oh, that's sweet, And I really it grew on me in 24 hours, and now I actually like it. But yeah.
But you liked it
So
before, right? Like from your memory as a child, you liked it.
Yeah, like it didn't disappoint for what we were looking for. I mean, you pick up the Mutilator and you know what you're looking for, and it definitely delivers that. So yeah, we liked the gore, but I don't remember. It's kind of funny to say. I don't remember the story very well, but there's probably a good reason for that. It's just not much of one.
No, this is a very color by numbers horror story.
Right. And I'll tell you, you know me, I'm the eternal optimist. I like to champion everything, but as we get into the plot unfolding in this movie, I really feel like they missed a huge step in their jump from the past to the quote unquote present. But we'll get to that. Speaking of story, why don't you give it its best shot at having a story?
All right, so here's Nan's sum. All right, so a young man brings his friends with him for a weekend of partying while he closes up their family beach house, unaware that the father's waiting to take revenge for an accident that happened many years ago, and the father must leave a trail of bodies as he makes his way towards his final revenge. There's the Mutilator.
Yeah.
That sounds way better than it is.
It sounds cool as hell.
It sounds cool.
Yeah. It really does. And I mean, with how this movie opens, which we'll get to the history of it in a second, but this movie opens pretty strong. I mean, when you've got a 10-year-old just blowing his mom's back out with his dad's hardware.
Hits her right in the squib.
Right, yeah. I mean, he just fucking blows the shit out of his mom's back.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. And you're like, God damn, I've never seen a movie start like this before. And it's pretty unexpected. And then we get that big time leap into the movie itself, which you just described. And yeah, the way you describe it, like, that sounds pretty cool. Sounds pretty creepy and
although
and
that opening, I'll say, because the opening is all, there's no words, nothing is spoken in the opening scene, and yeah, it is. The son is cleaning his dad's guns for his birthday. It's his birthday surprise. Dad, I cleaned all these. Puts a little sign up on it. I cleaned all these guns for your birthday.
Oh.
First gun he cleans, he kills his mother with. So he did not get to the other guns. So you can.
So he
imagine,
lied.
Yeah, and you can imagine the father's disappointment on A, not seeing all his guns cleaned, B, seeing his wife dead with his son sitting over her dead body. He like smacks the son, and then he just drags the mom into the back room, props her up, puts the "Dad, I cleaned all the guns" sign on the mom.
Yeah.
And proceeds to have a drink because it's his birthday. She was preparing a birthday cake for him.
Right, and I'll tell you something. What stuck out to me most about that scene, other than the kid shooting his mom, was the fact that, boy, did they ask a lot of that actress who plays the mother. I mean, she's got to play dead for some long, extended takes.
Which I think was the director's wife.
I think so. Well,
or relative, some relative. I don't know.
Well, yeah, one of the many Coopers in this movie, with his same last name and family member. But yeah, there are like not just a scene of her having to look dead for a minute. There's like 3 scenes, and she kills it, so to speak. I mean, she may
be the best
great.
actor in the whole movie.
Probably. But
the not doing. I admire the choice and the attempt at doing something artistic like that, a weird flashback where there is no dialogue, and it's all conveyed through emotion. The problem is these people emote worse than would. It's atrocious.
It's painful. I wrote painful down.
Yes, painful is perfect. So watching that, I don't know, I was mixed, but at the same time, you can't watch these without being like, well, of course they're not going to get amazing actors for this. That's just not what you're spending your money on, which is fine.
Right.
But it's rough.
Well, let me just say, I'm going to pose this question to you and to our listeners. Should a film, going back to what I was saying about not liking this movie and then turning around and finding a soft spot for it, should a movie be judged solely on the first frame to the last frame, or should it also be judged in the context of the world at the time it was being made and the context that it was being written and made, and do those things, or should those things play into a like or dislike of a movie?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So good question. So now, let me tell you.
You don't want me to answer it yet? Go ahead.
Not yet. You don't get to answer until after I'm done telling you, because I might change your mind. So this movie began production in actually 1983, and what happened was, this is what's so endearing. You've got an attorney by the name of Buddy Cooper, and he's just a local lawyer in town in North Carolina, and he writes movie reviews for the newspaper, and he even gets to go into his local movie theater, and he gets to see the movies before they're shown to the audiences, and so he's watching these movies. A lot of times it's horror movies by himself, and he's spending a lot of time with cinema in general. And then he says to himself, well, I want to make a movie. And I'm a lawyer. I've done okay for myself. I've got some financing. It's not a lot.
Natural step.
Right. So what's even more adorable than this guy wanting to make a movie himself, he says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to school. I'm going to go to, I'm going to enroll in American University, which I used to think was a fake university just
Right,
because
it
of the name.
sounds fake.
It's a real place, American University in Washington, D.C.
Come to Education College.
Right. I used to see that like on infomercials when it would have a doctor from American University. I'm like, whatever. Like, yeah, I believe that. American University in Washington, D.C. Boy, somebody stayed up for hours on end thinking the name of that place. But yes, American University is a real place. And he went there, Buddy Cooper, for 2 weeks. And he was going to learn how to make a movie. So he takes a script writing class and he takes a filmmaking class, and he gets to know his professors pretty well. And one professor of his in particular, a man by the name of John Douglas, decides to help him with this project. And, so you got Buddy Cooper sending John Douglas like drafts of a script, and John Douglas is making some changes and some suggestions. And eventually they get to the point where they feel like, hey, let's make a movie. We're going to make it quick, dirty, and cheap, $80,000 budget. And we're just going to have like 4 people, and the rest of them will be production assistants that we get from the graduate program at the university. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, cool. Like this is all we need. So they get into it, and they quickly realize that they need some professionals to help them make this movie. So they go to New York City. They start
like
interviewing.
Taking some programming classes and like, I'm going to make an MMO.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's all it takes. Isn't it? Yeah, it's just an entire,
got like
full
12
length feature
credit
film.
hours in this, so
Right. So they go to New York City. They find a director of photography, also known as a cinematographer, which is a really important job. Like, I think a lot of people that might not be overly familiar with film probably think that the director has a lot bigger hand in the actual filming of a movie than they do, but that really falls on more like the DP or the director of photography. Well, they find one. And he's a professional, and he says, okay, great. Who's running sound, and who's doing this, and who's doing that? And they're like, maybe we need more people. So then go to this thing called NABET or NABET. Is it an anagram? Is that the right word for it? Anagram? Am I getting that right?
Acronym.
Fucking acronym. I did it again. Damn it. Acronym.
But I was there to not let you keep doing it this time.
Thank you. So NABET, or the the National Association of Broadcast Employee and Technicians. So it's basically a union in New York, and then they went ahead and hired professionals to help them round out this movie. So what started out as being like a little $80,000 personal investment turned into $650,000, and actual working professionals helping them out. So that's the kind of adorable, like, do-it-yourself story of this. And what's so great is that the town, listen to this, the town was so supportive that when they were filming a scene at the college, there was an industrial size sump pump working because they had to drain out some flooding that had happened nearby. And they would the construction guys would turn off the pump while they were filming the scenes and then turn it back on again when they were done, just to help them out. Isn't that sweet?
That's very
the
cops, I'm trying to think what scenes are at the college
when they're picking
when they're picking them up. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even they talked to the police. The police were shutting down streets for them. And they even went to the police, and they're like, oh, man, the only thing we missed was the train, because there was a train that would come through, a long train that would take jet fuel to the Marine base that was nearby. And the cops are like, look, we can't stop the train, but we can sure as hell speed it up. So they would even wave the train faster to tell it, don't stop, don't slow down, just to help them with the filming.
Wow.
It's very sweet. The backstory of this thing is just adorable. And so it's this true labor of love. And
everyone behind the scenes was in the right place at the right time, except the screenwriter.
Right, because it's the writing. Yeah, the first. Yeah, here I am painting this fairy tale. That's where it starts to go wrong. The screenwriting. It goes a little. It goes way back up again when they hire their makeup artist. For
Yeah.
fuck's sake, because that elevates the shit out of it.
Let's just
But
get
then it
this out
goes.
right in the open. This is two
Yes.
movies. This is a amazing gore movie and a wretched film.
Yeah, it like somebody tries to tell you like, oh, it was called Fall Break before, and then it became The Mutilator. You're like, yeah, I know it was two movies, and here's why.
Right.
But no, you're exactly right. When I first started watching it, and I don't know exactly to what extent they went through in the casting process. It wasn't very extensive,
Yeah,
but
extent seems to be a very liberal use of the word there.
right. So I will say this: the main actor, like you mentioned, the boy who shoots his mother and then grows up. We now see him in the present as a teenager after we do our time jump.
Yeah, Matt Mittler. Which is there even a fade? Can we just talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
That transition? Is there
Yes.
a fade or anything? It seems like there is just a hard cut from dad with who's getting the mom drunk too. We forgot to mention that. He's
Yeah, the
still
dead mom.
feeding her liquor because he's like, well, if she's drunk, she's not dead, right? But I seem to remember it's like a hard cut then to this bar that they're at, but it's a significant amount of time has changed.
You're right, and there's so with what you just said. There is so much wrong with this movie in literally what you just described, because not only do we get a herky-jerky jump to the present, but the character of Ed Jr., okay, our main character in this film, is like so just well adjusted. Like he's a guy that shot his mom when he was 10 years old. His dad went on to like ignore him and hate him for the rest of his youth, and now he's like, let's say, I don't know,
about killing him.
Right. And yet he's this like really together guy going to college. He's got a group of friends. He's pretty, easygoing and funny. And
like you've seen enough of these movies where it doesn't take long for you to be like, I understand the trope that's going on here. And this movie being so color by numbers, like they blew their risks in that opening scene, and that's it. That's the only creativity you're getting in a story sense. Like that's it.
Right. And Buddy Cooper said, because I read an interview where he was asked, like, boy, you didn't really give the audience very much in that time jump. Was there more in the script? Did we just lose that in some editing? And he said, no, that's just how I wrote it. He just apparently had a lot of faith in the audience. But see, it doesn't.
I mean, all you got to do is put a title that says present day or something. That's it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because you don't even know who you're looking at.
Right.
But even that, it's like what doesn't make any sense is that this kid kills his mom, and his dad is obviously not happy about it. But then his dad just kind of put it on the back burner for 8 years and then suddenly decides that he's going to kill him.
Yes, yeah.
Like that part is like it would have made sense if
I don't
his
know
dad
if they're estranged. Because here's
right.
So because he gets a call in the bar, right? When I was first watching it, I thought he was talking to his dad, because then he comes back to the table and he's like, I gotta, my dad's having one of his spells and I gotta go I gotta go close up the house. But when he's on the phone, and I went back and watched a bit, then when he's on the phone, he's like, my dad? So I'm like, he's not talking to his dad? So also, this is some stranger who then knew to get a hold of him at this bar, which is weird in itself. That's just the bad writing. But yeah, you don't know what his relationship with the dad is, but like you said, he seemed very well adjusted. He's not. I would never think like, well, here's a guy who went through some trauma.
Right, because usually your standard movie is gonna like maybe the guy is well adjusted, but it'll give him a couple flashbacks to show that he still struggles with it
Right.
emotionally. But there's
Or
none
has
of
like a
that.
quirk or something, or likes to be isolated or something.
Yeah,
No,
this
this
guy killed his mom, and it's fine. It's just fine. Everything's fine. And
he's
but
not the first guy to do it. Let's stop dwelling on it.
right. And so, but what the other thing that's weird is, and this isn't that strange, but when this movie is written about, when they try to give the synopsis, it is all about like, a young man and his friends are tracked down by this, avenging, killer and blah, blah, blah. But the truth of it is, when his dad or whoever made that call to Ed Jr. in the bar, he didn't know that his friends were going to come along. He thought it
Right.
was just going to be him. So, like, and now there is some verbiage. I will say this. I'll try to save it by saying this. So apparently, Ed Jr., when he's asked it by his friends at the table, like, what did he say or what was said? He said, any 10-year-old can handle it, and it's time to face it like a man. So maybe his dad, was like, I'm going to kill that kid someday, but I'm going to wait till he's an adult so it's not super weird,
Right.
So when he's ready to face it like a man or however. So it's goofy as hell, but you're right. The time jump really is kind of leaves us wondering, and we're lacking for a lot of information. And not only that, but it's our first introduction to these performances.
Oh man.
And they are like, there's one scene, not this particular bar scene, which is no great shakes either, but there's one scene very early on, quickly after this, when they actually get to the condo. And I am praying that Big Ed, the mutilator, comes in and chops one of the actors' arms off because he so painfully doesn't know what to do with them. Like, he's just so uncomfortable. It's like, God, somebody save this fucking guy.
Yeah. There is a lot of expressive acting. Every line has its own hand gesture or different delivery. Like, I seriously, at the end of that bar scene, I was waiting for one of them to like draw the little Mickey logo in the corner like they do on the Disney Channel, because that was that level of acting right there. Like, everything is every emotion is telegraphed through just how over the top you're saying that line, no matter what the emotion is or whatever. I can't even say emotion. It's not emotion. It's just like the most basic hacky inflection that bad actors do.
Well, and I'll tell you, you and I are both actors, and and I'm not going to say that I'm the best.
Let's not beat around the bush. We're both great actors.
We're both great actors. We are. And I'm not great at everything. I don't claim to be, but you and I have both been to auditions before where we have seen people get up and read from a script auditioning for a role. And I just don't get it. Like, the funny thing is that theoretically everybody should be a great actor, because all script writing is just trying to imitate life, right?
Right.
So you'd think we'd all be great at it. But some people, when they get that script in hand, they literally say common things in ways that no human would ever say them. And that's the kind of delivery we get by this group.
Yeah.
Not only and the script isn't doing them any favors. There is literally a line. There is a line in that bar scene where one of the girls is asked what she's going to do during spring break, and she said,
"Oh, I wrote this down. I'm good. I wrote this down."
Because the funny thing is, is that when you watch it with closed captioning on, it actually puts one of the words in to make it sound better.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but she actually says, I'm going to try to get high score on video machine. I'm going to try to get the high score on video machine.
Yes.
Like it's kind of, I mean, it's like broken English. It's like, did a samurai write this?
Right.
Like, I got a high score on a video machine. Like, it's like, nothing against samurai, but
no, it was a good samurai.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like that line doesn't even make sense, and then you're giving it to
it's like
people.
That word was like almost a placeholder, because he's like, I don't know what video games are. 'Cause they're very, to his credit, they're very new. But I'm sure he was just like, over there on that video machine. But,
Yeah.
but how is there no one who? There has to be at least one person there who's like, oh, call it Pac-Man or something. Call it Donkey Kong. Doesn't matter.
Or put
Or
the
video.
word the in front of it, not just video machine.
Oh, it's very fair. Very fair.
Yeah, but yeah. So the ineptitude starts there, and you're kind of it leaves you. It's so inept in its acting that it kind of leaves you wondering, like, am I not in on a joke here? Like, is this purpose? Like, is this like a John Waters movie where people act poorly, like on purpose?
Right.
But it is that bad. And I'm going to ask you right now. Well, let's run through our cast real quick here so people know what we're talking about.
So we've got our big couples, right? We've got Ed and Pam. Those are the main ones. Ed Jr. and then his girlfriend Pam. You've got Ralph and Sue. Ralph, I thought that the small teeth guy from the beginning of Chainsaw 2 was the most obnoxious character, most annoying character ever. No, Ralph takes the cake for that. So yeah, Ralph and Sue, and then Linda and Mike is our third couple. Just want to say right now, I really loved Linda's eyebrows. That it really does it for me, and I was a big fan of those eyebrows.
Of Linda's eyebrows?
Oh yeah, she's got some very dark, like I like a dark but not overgrowth eyebrow, but a prominent eyebrow.
Oh, okay.
Very nice. My poor child, like they show her, and I'm like, oh, look at those eyebrows. She's like, oh God, stop it.
Well, I'm glad that she at least had a defining characteristic for you,
Right.
because Pam, now in Pam's defense, and Pam is Ed Jr., our main character's girlfriend. In her defense, like, that character is pretty well established. She's the one that's kind of thoughtful and in charge. She's kind of the mother hen of the group, right? But the differences between Sue and Linda are almost unintelligible. Like they don't have any really defining different characteristics, or am I missing something?
No, you're not. But they're not. I wouldn't say they're the same. They're the same in that they're both undefined, but they do seem different. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, different actresses play the parts.
Type, but she doesn't seem it. I don't know. Like Sue. There's just nothing about Sue. You at least know Linda is like into having fun, and she makes comments about how her boyfriend needs energy for other things. Like, they're the fuck couple. Like, that's all they do. So she's at least defined by that.
And it's strange that she is part of that couple, because the other half of that couple, oh my God, this guy is like, and I don't even know what you'd call him. The actor's name is Maury Lampley, who never went on to do another movie.
Yeah, when I said all the acting was over the top, not this guy. Stiff as a board.
Yeah, this is absolutely one of the most uncomfortable performances I've ever watched by somebody who just would rather be any other place than on that movie set.
Yeah, like did that guy audition for this movie?
Yeah, I mean, you can see why. I mean, granted, like you've said before, the 80s casting directors had a really bad vision of what an attractive male is. Like, this guy, I mean, he's tall.
Great body, though.
He's got that kind of floppy blonde, straight, stick straight blonde hair that they liked.
Yeah.
But not really good looking in the face.
No.
And his delivery.
But you look at his face and go, he's supposed to be
a
model. But he doesn't.
Right.
But something's off.
Right. And
he's like an inbred model. Like, that's a model of the inbred world. No disrespect to our members of the inbred community. I stand with
right. Or samurais. But
inbred samurais, get right out.
But he's so bad. But here's the paradox of this movie, is that you have to decide for yourself, how are you going to watch this? Are you going to watch it and are you going to be critical of that? Or are you going to like it in the way that fans of this movie like it, which is kind of liking it not only in spite of its failings, but almost because of its failings, like enjoying the awful acting. And because I did search this out, like, are there really super fans of The Mutilator? And there are. There are
Oh
people
yeah.
that love this movie. And it gets like really high ratings on everything that you look at as far as scores and whatnot.
Yeah,
Um,
because the gore is top notch, but it takes half the fucking movie to get there. So all you have to focus on are these performances, and just scenes that drag on. Like that fucking what the blind man bluff scene? What was that?
well, I'll tell you that I actually enjoyed that, but only because I love that game, but we call it sardines. Have you ever played sardines before?
Yes. I
Yeah.
know,
So,
but I know what it is.
and that's what it is. I've never seen
I don't know. I
sardines on
guess it
film.
was just the lighting quality was so poor. Like they did not convey it was dark in there. You know,
Well,
like I understood eventually that's what it was supposed to be, but through the first half of that scene, I don't think it's that dark. So when she like sits on a table behind a cooler, I'm like, what the fuck is she doing? I don't understand.
right. And when they touch each other's faces, like, I mean, I don't they mean any disrespect, but they touch each other like blind people touch people,
Right.
like
Like
to
that's how
identify
dark
that.
it is supposed to be in there.
But it
Where
doesn't
he can
imply that.
no,
Yeah.
not at all. So I was so confused by that scene. Like by that time I get it, but still I'm like, what a dumb game to play. Like I don't know. I don't
But
know. Anyway, I got a
but
little off track there. I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. But the other quality, if there's any other quality other than embracing the silliness of this movie, you've got the gore. That's undisputably the king of this film. But there's also this weird injection of fun. And I know that we try to swear off using
It's been
that
a
word,
while. It's been a while.
but that theme, when that theme song,
moderation. Oh God, that was good. All right.
when that theme song comes on, you're
It's
like,
the fall break theme song.
yeah, they
And
wrote
it
it. The
sounds
song
like
is
it's
called-
for a sitcom called Fall Break.
Yes, and it was co-written by the guy that wrote Under the Boardwalk. Um, yeah, yes, for this movie, and so they've got like a top songwriting talent. Yes, and the song is catchy. I don't know if it's memorable, but it's catchy in the moment. And you know, these kids are going on this fall break, and this like theme, like you said, it's a very sitcom-y sounding song. And then the scene when they go to buy the beer and you have the two actors in the store owners and the acting there, it's not just bad acting, it's like these people have never stepped in front of a camera in their life,
Yeah, like
and it's so
those
sweet
had to
and
be
endearing.
friends.
But wasn't it endearing though? Like
Let's
there's
talk about also that's like what is I don't understand the point of that scene. Because so what is that guy's name? Ralph. Ralph sees the senior discount, right? And then he's
right.
like, "Hey, how old do you got to be to get this discount?" Because he's never heard of a senior in his life. And the guy's like, 55, 55. Now, I'll say the first line that guy gave, I was like, "Oh, this guy seems natural." And then
Yeah.
every other line came out exactly the same way. I was like, oh, he's even worse than I thought. Even worse than I thought. The guy, the clerk. But so
Yep.
Ralph is like, how about this? You give me that discount, I'll go buy 2 cases of beer, and then we both win. And the guy's like, yeah, that sounds like a good deal. So then when Ralph leaves, I assume the guy's wife comes over and is like, do you trick someone else into buying another case of beer? I'm like, is that the reason that discount is there? How has he's fooling people? Has he done this before to where they bring up the discount and come up with the idea on their own? Is he some master subliminal? You know, he's like
Some Svengali.
like
yeah,
Kreskin
yeah.
over here.
Yeah, no, you're right. It doesn't make any sense because I think that the scene is started out by trying to convey that Ralph is like like a jokester, and he's just sort of like an upstart and everything. So like they have, he's a law student and he's going to argue his way out of everything and yada
He's
yada.
always going.
So I get that.
Okay,
But
yeah,
the
good
idea,
point. I guess I
but
was
the
confused by there being an actual moment where they were developing a character, and I confused it for something else.
But you're exactly right though. The idea of somehow a senior discount, which applies to everyone all the time, every day, is somehow tricking young people into buying more beer. Like that makes zero sense.
Right.
Like the couple is adorable to watch. Like it's like they won a silent auction and got a part in a movie. Like it's very sweet.
Yeah.
But then we finally get to the beach house. So this part's kind of cool. Like I should mention the whole genesis of this movie, the very beginning, before the Cooper even went to write the movie or went to the American University, before all of that, it all started when he was walking on the beach and thinking of horror movie ideas. And he thought like, man, it would be really great, a nautical horror movie.
Yeah.
Which, he wasn't the first one to think of that because, there is a movie called Jaws. But
he meant like nautical slasher film, though.
Yeah, like a nautical slasher with nautical implements, like nautical tools
Jaws
and devices.
is nature versus man. This is man versus man. Although some of Jaws is man versus man. Don't get me started. Let's go.
We'll cover it someday. But he wanted to do this nautical film, which does give us this like pretty cool ocean setting, and it's kind of an atypical ocean setting. Like it's not like spring break beachy. It really captures that sort of abandoned beach at night feel. Like
right.
it's not a resort town by any means. But it's
not
kind
creepy
of a
by nature. They don't show up and are like, "Whoa, your beach house looks like a murder shack."
No, they don't. And
although,
I guess
I will say this: I have never, because they get there and the door's already open, and they kind of suspect that maybe someone had already been there. I've never seen a group of kids who are only there to fuck try to get the cops there more than these people. They are clamoring to get the police over here, check our IDs, make sure we can have this beer, and make sure they know there are 6 young people alone in this house, not causing trouble.
Right. Like one person wouldn't just say, why don't we just wait until tomorrow morning? No, don't even wait till tomorrow. Give me until like 10:30 tonight. Like that's all the time I need, please. Yeah, no, you're right. That part of it is they're a little too mature for their own good there. But it's a cool setting. It is a little weird though, because the second that they get there, Big Ed is hiding down in is he in the garage or the shed at that point, or is that one and the same?
I think it's one and the same.
Okay.
It's like a basement, but it's also the garage. I was thinking about that too.
Okay, so it's like
the main floor of the house. They have to go up those stairs to get there. So it is like a basement, but it's like a shed.
Right. And I guess the intention was that he was going to have his son get there, and he was going to be waiting down in the garage. Oh, maybe he thought like he's going to have to come down here to get the tools to fix it up, because he has his battle axe in hand. Like he's sleeping in the garage, ready to kill his son the second that he comes in. Which
axe? My God.
Yeah. I don't really
weird because they mention it earlier. Of course, the bad actor, he has to be like, "Here's where my dad keeps those battle axe," and like puts his hand like where it would normally be, and then just pops back down. Like that's just a normal thing people do all the time. And the girl's like, "Well, it's missing." So you are like, "Oh, battle axe, interesting." And then you see it, and it's like a 17th century Arabian, like it's got the spear on the end of it and a weird long arc. It's a weird looking axe. Not something that you would think a hunter, who this dad is propped up to be, this master hunter who's never hunted man before, foreshadowed. This is called foreshadowing the movie. Like, this is Chekhov's cabin, this whole thing. Everything you see in it is used later.
Yeah, and you're right, there's no reason, like, it's not like he's got weapons like through the ages of like varying cultures, but he just has like a couple. And then speaking of cultures, he's got that mask there for like this Aztec mask, which I will say the Mayan god that they mention is a god who slices through clouds with his axe and he creates thunder and lightning. So there is kind of an axe thing there, but I don't expect most people to know that.
Here's something I heard in an interview that Mr. Cooper gave. Had he done another movie, it would have been about this archaeologist and his like students uncover this Mayan temple or something, and he takes the mask, and all the kids kind of take a trinket, and then they go back to their college, and then this Mayan god goes out slaughtering the kids to get back his, because of course the professor, it turns out the professor couldn't help but put the mask on. So the professor has been, and I was like, well, now that sounds like a fucking good movie. I want to see that movie. But he was way into this idea already.
Yeah, like maybe that would have made sense that like his dad waited so long. Like maybe his dad never cared for him, but then he got his hands on this mask and then it made him want to kill them or something. Like that makes
the dad uses the cabin to like hang out with his buddies. Like, do the buddies know that he's fucking insane? That he has gone off the deep end? And it's like, Ed keeps talking about murdering his kid. Keeps talking about slowly slicing him across the neck with the battle axe. Do you think he's going to do that?
It's kind of weird how he kept a picture of our buddy that got sliced up by a boat motor.
Right! That he hit someone with a boat motor, takes a picture of it and frames it and puts it in his house. Red flag.
By the way,
that is flag.
And that is Buddy Cooper, by the way, in the picture.
Right.
That's the director. Yeah. But no, there's several red flags that should have popped up with anyone that was in close proximity to this guy to know that he was on a bad path. But hey, the kids get over it pretty quickly because there's fun to be had and beer to be drank and all that sort of thing. Now there was one scene that I thought was kind of interesting, and maybe I just haven't ever seen this before, but the one couple that would be Mike and is that Mike and Linda? Yeah, Mike and Linda wander off, and they find this sort of like, how would you describe that? Like, it's like this tarp tent, giant tent over a
they find a biodome somewhere?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like, this biodome over this swimming pool, which is kind of a cool idea. They've got like plants around it and lights and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting...
That was part of like a motel that I think Buddy Cooper owns. He still runs the motel. So yeah, like out on the pier. Yeah, so like, but I think that was part of the motel that was like next to where they were filming.
Got it. And it kind of, if we want to start getting into...
Let's also say this real quick. I think this is the first movie I've ever known of being filmed in North Carolina.
Yeah, there's not a lot. No, know.
Because like you don't even know. I can't even say that for sure. But when the cop shows up, he's got a North Carolina patch. So that's the only reason I assume it's filmed there. That actor supposed to be set there.
It is filmed in Moorhead, which is in North Carolina, and in it's called the Atlantic Beach or something like that.
And that's where the guy's motel is that he owns. So it's the same motel.
Yeah, because I couldn't quite. I wonder if they casted. Well, I mean, aside from the director's family members, if they casted locally, because some people have like a slight bit of a twang to their voice or to their accents. Like maybe they're from North Carolina, probably are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting setting, and that pool. If we want to kind of dive into some of these kills now, that pool features an interesting one, which was actually born out of a failed effect.
Right.
They were going to spear.
Thank God, because if this was what was intended, because it's your first kill, and it is the worst.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Some people like get really gaga over this kill because all it is just slow motion water lapping. It's a drown
motion. Yeah, it was like they had an elaborate scene where she gets speared, and they were just like, we can't make it work. So he's like, well, let's stretch out those 40 seconds with hands coming out of the water. Like, it is the slowest fucking thing. And it's also this pool, like they're playing, like they can't find each other in a pool. Like they both seem very confused as to where the other one is, so much so that a third person can enter the pool, murder them, and drag them out Like it's not like a quick like, oh, I scooped him up out of the pool and they're gone. That guy got in the fucking pool,
Took his clothes off.
Took his clothes off. Yes.
Like, how long are the other ones under the water that they didn't see him? Like, they do make the point that it's like heavily chlorinated. I think it's supposed to be like kind of smoky in there or something like that. Or
sure. Yeah, maybe.
But even still, I mean, you could
Your
still see
eyes are
them.
bleary. Yeah, if they're opening their eyes underwater, I get it, maybe. But you should not have to make these many excuses to make a scene work. Like,
and if you open your eyes. If you open your eyes underwater in a pool that's that heavily chlorinated where you can't see through it, you're not going to do it again.
Yeah, you're not seeing when you come up either. But then, of course, yeah, the best acting too, as whatever the guy's name is, pops up and doesn't see anyone. You're very good at this.
That's a pretty good imitation of what we get from Mike. Oh my God. Every time that guy opens his mouth, it's just like I kind of got excited about his acting because I'm like, I want to see just how fucked up he can make this line. Like, what is he going to say that is going to because there was never going to be a time that he said a line properly.
No.
Like, never.
How how bad can someone say normal things?
Right. And you know, one of the
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of the other, like, you'd think that Ralph character, you think that actor is, like, not as bad as Mike is, but when Ralph, right before his death scene, he says some things where he thinks that, you know, another couple is behind a door doing it, and he's kind of toying with them a little bit. And the inflection that he's putting on the things that he's saying just makes absolutely zero sense.
Yeah.
It's just no one would ever speak that way.
He's in such an unnatural situation. Like if you were talking to two people who were behind a door for that long and they made zero noise and responded to you in no way, you wouldn't keep doing that. You'd just be like, hey, fuck you guys, I'm out of, you know, whatever.
Right.
Or I'm very worried, open this door. Let me at least know you're in there, you know.
Yeah. And then he goes to nail the door shut.
Right. He's going to close them in.
Right.
But yeah, he talks about that where he talks about he's like a prankster. He's like, I won't play any more jokes on you. And I can't really think of any jokes he plays. There's one where it's like just like a dummy that's hanging. You know, like she opens the door and you think you're going to get the classic bodies hung from the top. But like Ralph has somehow fashioned an entire dummy to fall when you open the door. But that seems to be the only prank I remember him doing outside of just being insufferable.
Yeah.
That's his idea of a joke is just the way he talks. Bad joke, dude.
Right. Yeah. Well, there are times where he thinks he's being funny, but literally there's no humor to what he's saying whatsoever.
No.
Yeah. Just insufferable is a great word.
Let's also say the funniest thing about Ralph is his chest hair.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of unexpected.
Sophie and I were both like, is that real? Did he have none and they put fake ones? It looks fake.
It does.
Unnatural pattern. It's like that weird curly patchy. It's so odd. It's the
it kind of it's almost like I think we could say this because I think we could say it. It looks to me like the chest hair that an African American man would have. Like it's kind of kinky and like knotty, you know, like, and so it's like that doesn't belong on his body.
No,
because
it's like shaped like a wine glass too. Like it starts out wide and then tapers into very narrow and then blooms out again at the base.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he was going. If he sculpted that, it was a failure.
Right. Let's go back. Let's get through some of these deaths because we're talking. We love this movie too much.
Right. So we get our first drowning death, which is pretty anticlimactic. Yeah. And then
45 minutes into the movie.
Right. And then we get to is it Mike's death? Mike's death comes next, right?
Yes.
And
he's
that
looking for her. Because now he's strewn the clothes around and he's following the clothes and there's the panties hanging on the shed door.
Yeah, and it's and that boy does that drag on for damn ever for
Oh,
him trying to like follow this trail of clothes that we know that Big Ed has left behind for to I don't know string out that kill for whatever reason,
right.
but
Like, well, he's a
but
great
once
hunter. He knows how to bait his prey, Tim.
I suppose not that he would have to do that much work to bait Mike into doing
No,
anything like at
because then he
all, but
uses the loudest thing he can find. He cuts Mike over with a boat propeller. Like he's like nothing so stealthy like gunning up the old diesel engine and tearing through someone.
yeah, that first time where he accidentally killed his friend with a boat motor just wasn't enough. Like he needed that charge again.
It's
And
like Human
that's
Centipede. He's like the next one will be better.
right. And and the thing is, like, the kill itself is pretty gnarly, but the best part, the most memorable part of that kill is more like the death aspect versus the actual killing. Because Mike, the consummate actor that he is, goes into what can only be described as a spastic gyration of I don't even know what to say.
I
Like
don't know what to say. His scream is
he's
just this one. It's like a Pavarotti, just like a ah! No
yeah,
change in it.
and yeah, he's just kind of his hands are kind of limp wristed and up, and he's just sort of like just ambling around, and it's just and it goes on for seemingly ever,
Yeah,
and before he dies, and
a lot of gore
oh
though.
my
Good gore, like good, like
yeah,
the whole
no, the
front's
gore's
ripped
great.
open. They had like animal parts in there to come out. Because I
Yeah,
watched the unrated version. This movie, when they first tried to release it, they were like, "We're going to give it an X," and they had to
yes.
go in and edit it. But this is the unedited. But watching it, I was like, I feel like there's nothing more over the top than other shit from that era.
I'm with you, and I was wondering if the version that I was watching, which was currently on Amazon Prime Video, and it's listed as Fall Break, um, I'm assuming that it was the unrated version because it was pretty gory, but it wasn't. You're right, it wasn't like wildly. I've seen worse. I mean, there
Yeah,
there were worse gore movies that have come out for sure. But um, so
gonna go a
so kind
little
of
over, just a touch
yeah, we're gonna
over
go a
on
little
this
over.
one.
So getting to some of those other kills, Ralph,
Yeah, because
we're
I don't want to
happy.
rush through the kills, because the kills are the best part.
Yeah, Ralph, we're happy to see him die. And the thing is,
I don't
the
even remember
shot
how Ralph dies.
he gets the pitchfork
Oh yes, okay.
through the throat, into
Yes,
and out the back of the throat,
shuts
which
him up.
yes, thankfully, and it's shot in a weird way for whatever reason. I don't know why they did this, but they hung him upside down, and so the what we see is actually upside down and backwards. So it started with the kind of whatever fake pitchfork in him pulling out, and then him kind of following it, but when they reverse it, it's him going away from the pitchfork and then it going into him. So I don't know why they filmed it that
Oh,
way,
I didn't
but
notice
it's
that.
yeah, upside down and backwards. But yeah, he gets it right to the throat, and that's kind of the first kill. Well, no, I mean Mike's is gruesome, but you're like, okay, this movie is going for it. Like this is two kills now that are pretty
Well,
gnarly. So
I
you
will also say, and this wasn't even a kill when he puts up Linda, because there are these like spikes in the shed, and someone, you know, check off spikes are like, boy, I'd hate to get hit with one of those. Like he's hanging them on this, but the first one he puts up is already Linda's dead body, and just the way he just like thunk, pops that skull onto that spike is
yeah,
was unsettling. That was a great shot or
it
finish.
was.
Um,
Almost even more so than like the everybody remembers the Texas chainsaw hanging up on the hook thing.
yes, it was
But I mean
like that. That
it was
person
on
was
that
still
level.
alive. That's like hard.
Right,
This
right.
person was dead, but even with them being dead, you're just like, oh, unnecessary.
Yeah. And
Which
then
we forgot about the cop because he kills
oh
the cop.
yes.
Which that was the one part that wasn't foreshadowing because the cop comes out because they're all out on the beach looking for Tom and or Linda and whatever, and Mike, and this cop's like, just be careful on the beach here. Get lightning on the beach. And I'm like, that's how the killer dies. He's gonna get electrocuted. The fucking lightning never happens ever.
No,
Never
no.
comes down. But that cop he gets decapitated by the battle axe. Something else
Yeah,
happens
is it?
too.
Yeah, and let me ask you this: is there something that gets him before he gets beheaded, or does he just get straight up beheaded? I can't
No,
remember.
I think something else happens to him and then he gets beheaded.
Yeah,
Right? I don't
but the
remember.
beheading is pretty gnarly. Like, I mean, it's a good beheading.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I read that they were even having trouble because they had the fake head loaded up with like blood packs, and like before they could like really start filming it, like one of the blood packs opened and it was already bleeding from like the nose and mouth before they even chopped it, which is kind of nice. So yeah, that's a nice gnarly one. Now by the time you get to that point, that's 3 gruesome kills, and it's then that it really settles in, like, okay, they are going for it in this movie. Like, this thing has turned a corner. Like, we are getting some gruesome kills here.
Yeah.
And then they really take it up a notch.
Yeah. Because earlier in Chekhov's living room, they've introduced the fishing gaff. And so, yeah, now everyone's looking. We've only got 3 people left. That's the other
So
thing.
describe
Not
to
a lot of like ancillary characters get it. Only the cop, like the cop, was kind of thrown in there. There's always the one or two, there's the hitchhiker or whatever who's the collateral damage. But the cop felt even forced for that. But he was the only outside the group death that we have.
so describe for me what a gaff looks like.
So it's just like it's like a giant. Imagine like the old vaudeville where they would hook someone off the stage. Imagine instead of like a nice tapered wood hook at the end of it, it's like an actual thing you would like hook a large fish or a shark with. Like it's like a giant sharp hook at the end of a very long pole.
Yes. So this thing is primed to do some damage no matter where it goes into the body.
Yeah.
And in this movie, they made a very interesting, and some would say possibly even over the top decision.
Yes, it's effective if you want to be horrified.
Right, because it's Sue who gets this, and there's a couple things that are unsettling about this scene. But I'm not going to exactly fault it. One thing is, usually in horror movies, when somebody is captured or grabbed by the bad guy, they're screaming bloody murder, right? But for whatever reason, Sue is kind of like, she almost looks more paralyzed with fear.
Yeah,
like
because he's kind of choking her, but she doesn't struggle out of it very well.
Right. And that's kind of even makes the whole thing a little bit stranger. And then he plops her down on her back on a tool bench, and then takes that gaff, and he's got it in his hands, and he's ready to aim it, and he drives it straight up her vagina.
Yeah.
Right into...
When he like turns, because it's up by her chin, and then he starts turning it, and I was like, oh no. No. Please no.
And what's funny is it seemingly penetrates her vagina and then comes out of what would be her lower stomach.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that when it went into the body cast that they had built, the hook goes seemingly into the vagina, and when it comes out of what would be her lower stomach, it actually hooked onto a condom that was filled with blood that was used to hold the blood in the body cast. So when it comes out, they actually kind of liked it because it sort of looked like intestines.
Right, like a stretchy membrane on it.
Right.
It's rough.
It is, and it's so rough that there were even crew members that refused initially to work on that scene. They just didn't like it, and the director has admitted since that in retrospect he would change that kill. That in his mind he thought, hey, it's a hook, it's a great murder instrument. Let's just put it in a place that'll get a real cringy reaction out of people, which it does do that.
Right.
But I think, I mean, he actually said that he would change it if he could go back.
Yeah, it's such a weird such a weird thing where you could just watch all this gore, but just one violation like that, and you're just like, oh, now, not in my gore. Come on.
Right, right. So there's that one,
Yeah.
and then the one of the other. I don't mean to skip ahead, but one of the other major sections of gore that we just have to talk about is when we're finally in our climax. What you think is the climax of this movie is awful. Like there are several different climaxes to this movie.
Yeah.
The first one, you're like, Jesus, I can't believe it was so awful, like so anticlimactic. But of course, Big Ed, our killer, has to come back again and even again a third time. But when they finally kill Big Ed, they've got him on the back of a car, and he's kind of like hanging on the trunk area, and they're reversing the car so they can ram him into a concrete wall.
Yeah.
He is then split in half, and the policeman says, pull forward.
Can you pull forward, please?
And upon doing so,
Like the cop
Big-
did not see what just happened at all. It was like, can you pull forward?
it is just like that. It's so funny. And then when the car pulls forward, now Big Ed has been bisected and his torso is on the ground, but still manages to slice off the leg of the cop,
Yeah.
which is hysterical.
Through the leg. Like he still has the strength.
Yes, as a
Cut
torso.
through bone with one swing.
And apparently that scene was kind of difficult to film because they literally had to bury the actor in the ground, and he was losing circulation in his legs.
God.
So they'd have to bring him back out and then bury him again. And it's a great way to finish it off.
I will say, with the two in the car, because Ed Jr. gets like stabbed in the leg or something, they don't really, not a lot happens to them. But so Ed and Pam are in the car, but as they're screaming, like good screams, like those were legit the best acting points from the ensemble in that movie.
Right.
Like they were legit terrified, and I don't know if it was said well or poorly, because he never brings up the thing that happened when he was a kid or anything, right? So this is just a thing no one knows about.
I know what you're gonna say.
And so after they've been fighting with this killer for 5 minutes. Finally, they slam him into the stone wall, and Ed Jr. looks out the back and goes, "It's my dad." I died. I didn't know if I was supposed to feel bad, but I was like, no one cares or knows.
Yeah, it's kind of like the world's worst, like meeting the parents moment. Like, like, oh, by the way, honey, that's my dad.
Right.
Oh, it's so good. But that whole sequence is kind of fun because like even the ad-libbing, and I feel like it had to be ad-libbing, like when Big Ed is still, while he's still one person, is on the roof and he's like slashing through the canvas roof of the car, and Pam is trying to light the cigarette lighter so she can burn Big Ed's hand, and she drops it, and she just goes, I'll get it.
Yes.
Would you really say that in that moment? Like, oh, hold on, I'll get it. It's just right here. Okay, now I'll burn your dad.
Does Ed Jr. even know that's happening at that point?
Oh my God,
it's a maniac.
It's so funny. I mean, it is. Let's put it this way: for as much as this movie leaves so much to be desired, it really kind of starts to make up for things and get back into your good graces with these kills, and that end sequence is great.
I'll say this: I didn't enjoy watching the movie that much. It had some great moments, but it is really boring for a long chunk of time. But I have had a fucking blast talking about it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
it's Tim. Also, happy 25th episode.
25 episodes.
We made a benchmark.
And it's a big deal too, because like I know that there are other different formats of shows that are a little looser format that, you know, people maybe just give commentary, like watch parties and stuff like that. And those are great. I think I really enjoy watching those. But I will say, for our sake, for our benefit, we put a lot of time into researching these movies.
Yeah.
And so 25 shows is actually like 100 hours worth of researching and taking notes, and it's great. And I love the fact that we don't really do a whole hell of a lot of editing, except for when we have to for sound reasons.
Yeah, we
like
get some sound drops. Are you shocked to hear that? Because you didn't know, because I've expertly edited it out.
Yeah, you are smooth as silk on those edits. It really, I mean, when I listen, I'm actually listening for it, but it's beautiful.
I'm sure I'm going to go back on this one and be like, oh, this one is unavoidable.
Right.
Like garbage.
But no, it's been
this one up.
Yeah, it has been a great 25 episodes, and I'm so excited to do that much more. And one of these days we'll get back in the same room and bang these things out again. But we're still cranking out great shows, and I love it.
Yeah, and we're talking about, we're gonna have a little anniversary bonus episode coming out. Just, you know, keep your ears peeled. Okay, so that was 1985's The Mutilator. Next week, Tim and I, we're going to be talking about the 1974 baby creeper, It's Alive, which I thought was Basket Case. I knew it was It's Alive, but I get those confused. And I started watching the trailer for Basket Case, and I was like, this is not what I wanted. And then I was like, oh, it's Alive.
Have you seen It's Alive?
I've seen bits and pieces of it through like retrospectives and like large clips and stuff like that, but I've never seen it.
I haven't either.
But it just looks like one of those, you know, when it's like it's kind of like a Rosemary's Baby, right? It's like you actually have like some expertise production behind this horror idea.
And doesn't it have the guy from The Stuff?
Oh, it might.
There's some connection to It's Alive for a movie that you and I have done before. I can't remember what it is, but it might be that.
All right. Well, I can't wait to find out.
Yeah. I'm sure we will. We'll uncover it. But no, I'm excited.
This is a good return to form too. This is a good little slasher. We haven't done one of these in a while, so this was nice. Fun to do. Okay, so yeah, next is It's Alive, blah, 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 all that. I can't drag this out anymore. So please follow us on Instagram. Our handle is @SlumberPodcastMassacre. Email us, slumberpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing, what you'd like to hear, some movies you like, don't like, anything like that. Our Patreon is patreon.com/slumberpodcastmassacre. A huge thanks to our patrons for helping keep this show going. We hope we're not letting you down. That's all I've got. Tim, do you got anything else to say about The Mutilator?
Well, I'll just say thank you to everyone for listening, and be sure to tell your friends to listen to us, and they can find us on Video Machine. And we look forward to entertaining you for many, many more years to come.
I hope we get the high score. We'll see you, Timmy.
See ya.